The Fallout series has some really influential characters in its history, peoples whose entire legacy crosses generations, whose stories become legends, and whose work on the world is touched even as a new game features a story a century away. Here are 6 influential Fallout characters. I know, 6 is a strange number. Well, there was 2 I was really debating on, so I decided to include both. Now, to make this fair, I'm going to put a ban on one thing. I cannot use a protagonist in this list. That means it will not feature the Vault Dweller or the Lone Wanderer. While protagonists are indeed highly influential, they really have an advantage over NPCs by the virtue of being playable. I will also primarily be focusing on the post-war world, so they'll either be born after the Great War or at least survived in post-war times. In addition, I will have an honorable mention category before number 1, to kind of give a brief rundown on some characters I didn't choose. That said, I know there'll be some wondering why I didn't include a specific character. So, let's begin. I feel bad starting this list with the Blobfather so low, especially given I'm particularly biased to the Unity and the West Coast Supermutants, and I probably betrayed some of my fellow Unity fans, but let me explain my reasoning. The Master has created a species that's left a permanent place in the legends of the West Coast, a new people that had to integrate themselves to a post-Unity society, a people that is often discriminated against, with even NCR politicians running on an anti-mutant platform. There is little doubt that the Vault Dweller's primary antagonist is influential. However, because of Fallout 3, 4, and 76, the reality is he didn't do anything that is very unique. There's supermutants all over the United States, for better or worse. That being said, there is definitely something special about the Master supermutants compared to all the East Coast ones. They're more stable, they don't become behemoths, and even the dumber ones are highly obedient to their Master. They're super soldiers, veterans of a hated army, well after a war has passed, and trying to blend in with a new world. Besides there being so many pockets of mutants, the Master's mutants are on their way to becoming extinct, as all super mutants are. They can't reproduce sexually, and there is no FEV left to make more of them. Much like the Master, Father, or Sean is the reason for an entirely new species of sentient creatures in the wasteland, though both methods are a bit different from each other. While the Master created mutants with intent and needed pure human DNA to get the best results, Sean was sought out as such pure human DNA. Sean, in a lot of respects, is a product of other people's goals and desires. Raised by the Institute, he shares much of their personal beliefs. Many of the experiments done by the Institute came prior to his arrival. Still, he's father to the 3rd generation since. Much like the Master was father to the West Coast Supermutants, it's Sean's own genetic makeup that caused the Institute to make great advancement in artificial human production and caused such panic and distrustful nature in the Commonwealth. Synthetic humans have even touched other wastelands, like Harkness in Fallout 3. But this is also true of the West Coast Supermutants. That said, synths are not necessarily a doomed species like supermutants are, so there's a chance for the continued survival and production of more synthetic humans if the sole survivor sides with them, which is probably the biggest reason I place Father over the Master. If it becomes canon that the Institute is actually destroyed, then these 2 spots may flip. Mr. House is undoubtedly a crafty entrepreneur who has created an attraction that eats up tourist money by revitalizing the dazzling wonder of the new Vegas Strip, even if it's only a small percentage of what it once was. It's the city people spread tales about, but truthfully, it's his work of prior times that really influences the wasteland. While this list does primarily focus on the post-war world, House was the man who owned Robco, and Wastelanders use plenty of Robco technology today, such as the ever-present Pip-Boy, the important terminals that many Wastelanders utilize, and an ever-seemingly endless horde of robots. Mr. House's business is something of a pre-war exception, but House survives the post-war times, and there's little doubt that Robco property is quite abundant and very well equipped by the post-war world. Caesar is a dominant force of militaristic might in the Mojave, sure. Yes, he challenges the NCR and has done quite a tremendous job at keeping the arguably most powerful nation at bay. But it's not just his incredible feat that makes him influential, it's how he got to that point. He dominated tribe after tribe across the 4 states. He has no doubt left a permanent mark across so many lands. And to the rest of the world, he's a threat. Even after the fall of Caesar and potentially the collapse of his legion, the tribes will never be the same again. A post-Caesar world in the 4 states will look incredibly different. Out of all the known elders, Maxson II, John Maxson, Owen Lyons, Sarah Lyons, Father Elijah, Big Manera, or even Arthur Maxson, no elder has quite the reputation like the original one, Roger Maxson. Don't get me wrong, a few of these elders have quite the resume, but it's the first High Elder who has really influenced the Brotherhood. He created a faction that has survived well before the NCR and continues to survive today, and the Brotherhood has become something of a legend to the people of Fallout and an intrigue to the people of the real world. Roger Maxson has become something of a myth among the Brotherhood. He is practically the group's equivalent to the American Founding Fathers concept. While they can cross the coast, they don't have a ton of ambition beyond mission objectives. They're more military than nation. Perhaps what keeps me from ranking Roger as number 1 is the fact that the group is constantly stressed by their short numbers and often feels like it's on the brink of death. Owen Lyons has created a new identity for the Brotherhood that encouraged altruism and recruited to swell their numbers, but this caused the group to split. While Lyons' Brotherhood was able to bring the wasteland clean water thanks to Project Purity, it had a limited scope of simply being the capital wasteland. The biggest thing that happened was the group being taken over by Arthur Maxson, who gained a lot of recognition and brought the Outcasts back into the fold. Dick Richardson and by extension Eden were both Enclave presidents who had the ability and willpower to eliminate a lot of mutant life and shape themselves as boogeymen to the people. This was more of a case for Dick Richardson, however. He could eliminate all of life on the planet. That said, neither really got terribly far. There's also the think tank, who, like House, were pre-war scientists that created plenty of technology, and they researched a ton of experiments that could have changed the landscape. Fortunately, the bulk of their experiments have at best a limited application to the wastelands, though that's not true for everything. At least in the Mojave, the Cazador is quite rampant. The New California Republic is perhaps the most powerful nation in the wasteland, being a group that has a lot of territory and numbers to back them up. Indeed, the NCR boasted over 700,000 people by Fallout 2, which is 40 years prior to the events of New Vegas and potentially has over 1 million people by that point. And President Tandi takes a lot of fame for that. She had a ton of political clout that had even won the accolades of some of her ideological opposition. There were even tribals outside the NCR borders who would refer to her as Great Mother. While her father, Eridash, was the founding president of the NCR, it was Tandi's abilities that made the Republic the powerhouse it became. She was the longest serving president for a reason, and no other one could match her in legacy. She had the hearts of the people for her humanitarian views on life and her slow and sustainable expansion compared to her successors. Still, the NCR has weakened since her death, but her administration accomplished so much in her 52 years of service that the NCR has yet to fall. And that was 6 influential people of the Wasteland. A special thanks to my channel members, especially my Members Thrice Over guys like the Crazy Game Developer and Danny McPhee. And if you want to support me and join us, well, I'd be more than happy. Also, feel free to join my Discord server and chat with us. Thank you. Have a good one.